Who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Hi, I'm Gail Rubenstein, the founder and CEO of a company called Retail Resilient, social selling for the car industry. And we help auto dealers, auto agencies, and vendors in the auto industry sell more cars, service more cars, and make more money using our social selling strategy. That includes TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and anything else you can think of. So if you're looking to invest thousands and make millions, we're definitely the social selling company for you. Like I said, who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
If you run a service drive, you know these days first impressions matter. But when your advisors are tied up with inbound phone calls, they tend to neglect their other, more important duties. And did you know 75% of all service calls are frequently asked questions and routine requests? Still, the average dealer misses up to 30% of inbound calls, adding up to a ton of missed service opportunity and increased customer churn. 68% of callers actually go elsewhere if they can't get through, which means you could be losing $60,000 to $70,000 every month in service revenue simply from missing calls. So who will pick up? Introducing Brooke.
Hi there.
Your best service scheduling assistant. Brooke is the first intelligent digital voice assistant to answer, handle, and appoint all of your inbound service calls. Hiring Brooke means absolutely no call goes unanswered, boosting your customer satisfaction and reducing your overhead costs. And talking to Brooke is like talking to a friend with human-level understanding and a friendly conversational voice. Her conversational intelligence is built on millions of actual service industry conversations, making her the easiest onboard you'll ever have. She can handle any volume of calls and follows your policies every step of the way, 24/7. That means even when the lights are off, Brooke is always on.
And I can do it without missing a beat.
You really do check all the boxes. Book with Brooke today. Visit Brooke.ai or call 866-942-1236. Finally, the perfect match.
See that light above the bathroom door over there? That's a big time saver for our technicians and other recon staff. The light goes on when the bathroom is occupied. Now techs keep working until the light goes out. Then they know for sure the room is empty. And when they're busy there, they're also catching up on the news. Not bad news, but news they need for the job. I post these where they can't be missed. Too often, the search for the right product burns valuable time. This inexpensive detailer's cart organizes supplies. Now techs lay their hands on what they need without delay. We got these time savers from Rapid Recon, the reconditioning software company that's always defining better reconditioning solutions for dealerships like yours. When the goal is to get cars through recon in 72 hours or less, every step, every minute, every better decision made helps towards that goal. For more recon efficiency ideas like these, talk to the recon experts at rapidrecon.com.
And thanks to all our sponsors. Good morning and welcome, everybody. We like to always start with a few books. And obviously, we're promoting Tim Hayden as one of our guests on this morning. Thanks for that recommendation. Jeff, maybe you can talk about It's Your Ship, since it's one of your recommendations.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everybody. And this book is pretty phenomenal because you think we're in the car business, et cetera, and we talk about taking care of customers, all these things on the show. And this book was actually something when I joined a dealer group a few years ago that was required reading. And when you think about in the car business, required reading is not exactly popular. But the owner of the group said, You read this before you start. I'm going to ask you a couple questions to make sure. And it's brilliant. It's about a gentleman who became a captain of a ship, first time captaining, and he was the worst ship in the Navy. It was a destroyer that underperformed. It wasn't the newest one, et cetera, et cetera. And by him taking over the helm, he turned it into the best ship in the Navy, and he never ordered one person to do something his way once other than standard orders. And it's a brilliant book. It's an easy read, and it's a great thing, not just to learn how to handle staff, it's how to handle people.
Yeah, and how to deal with difficult customers. That was one of my choices. And Tim, maybe you could talk a little bit about what people could expect in your book.
Sure. The Mobile Commerce Revolution is a bit of an artifact. It was published in 2014. My co-author, Tom Webster, and I, we set out really to frame, back then, it was a big deal that smartphone usership was up to about 80%. It was not quite where it is today. But really understanding that technology is going to change, but human nature will not, only human behavior will. And I thought that would be interesting as we're talking about how customers have changed over the last 1, 3, 5, 10 years. Where does it go from now?
Fantastic. Thanks for that recommendation. It's available on Amazon, I'm assuming, and elsewhere.
It is.
Yep.
Amazon and elsewhere is correct.
Fantastic. So, Jeff, start with our disclaimer.
Yes, well, as always, we love to discuss our disclaimer. Not that we love to, but just a little bit of covering of our behinds. And it's just the fact that the views and opinions shared here today are those of our guests and not necessarily of the AutoHub show, Ian Nethercott or Jeff Polo. And of course, you can go online and read all the little fine print, which isn't that fine.
Thanks, Jeff. So the show today was about how to handle today's difficult customers. And I don't know if anyone's been at, I guess, an airport washroom lately, but some of them have these buttons that you push on your experience in the airport washroom, which I thought was really humorous, but they kind of have these same icons. Anyway, let's get into it, Mr. Jeff. Just moving this over.
I actually have to say, though, while we're moving that over, I've noticed the airport washrooms are cleaner now that they have those buttons in there. It's quite interesting.
Oh.
And when you consider they don't have staff to clean them, it's even more impressive.
Yeah.
So welcome to our guests today. We have 3 people slated to be on our guest panel, which we're excited about. And all of them are former AutoHub show guests and a couple, veterans and everything else. So first of all, we're going to start with the person who hasn't been on recently, which is Sarah Van Teen, who's the Vice President of Sales at Quantum 5. And I'm only assuming you're from Charlotte, North Carolina. Sarah, if you could say hi and tell us a bit about yourself and your business.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Sarah Van Teen, and I am in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you can't tell from the accent, I'm pretty far in the South and have lived here my whole life. But I'm excited to be on today. I am the Vice President of Sales for Quantum 5, and we do learning and technology development for dealerships.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much. And we know you know your stuff on this stuff, so we're looking forward to getting your viewpoint. Secondly, is the aforementioned Tim Hayden, the author of one of our books. He's the CEO of Brain Trust. And it seems that our show today is actually everybody from the South or near South, and he's from Austin, Texas. So Tim, say hi, tell us a bit about yourself, other than your book.
All right. Well, as you've already said, I'm the CEO of Brain Trust. I'm Tim Hayden. I am in Austin, Texas. At Brain Trust, we go about helping all kinds of businesses in different industries really build a single source of truth. And we do that through data. Car dealers are one of our favorite verticals to work in because they have data all over the place. And really, they're the ones in some of the most need right now of being able to understand what's going on with their customers. Again, probably one of the reasons I'm here for this show today.
Superb. Thank you so much. And again, we're looking forward to hearing your viewpoint. And last but certainly not least is Don Graff from Bonita Springs, Florida. I have to say that every time. Don, thanks for being here again. Please say hi. Don.
You're muted, Don. Don, you're muted.
There you go.
Go ahead, Don.
My dog was barking. I have an English setter I show him, and we're at
No worries. Go ahead.
Tampa yesterday. He's a little rambunctious, so he's still a bit lively from being out.
So go ahead, Don. Tell us about yourself.
Happy to be here today. I'm Don Graff Automotive Advisors, small consulting company in Bonita Springs, based in New Jersey previously to the prior 6 years. We work with dealerships on people, process, visibility, and finances. That's where we believe you're going to find most of the action, most of the issues. I'm looking forward to today's session, especially with some of the new guests. Haven't spoken with Tim before, and looking to hear what Sarah has to say again.
Terrific, thank you. And in our days now with our podcast days, our live audiences have always are certainly going away. But I do have to recognize the people that have tuned in to listen in live today, and that way they get to pick up on all the jokes. So thank you all. And Chris, nice to see you after your last week's visit. So thanks for being here again. And Ian, let's take it away. And hi, Bruce. Now that you're back on.
And welcome, Tom, Patrick, and Dave. So the big question, or what I think is a big question, is how are today's customers different from those 5, 10, or even a year ago, in your opinion? So let's start with Sarah.
This is a really passionate question for me. And really, I think we can all agree that there is a lot of heightened anxiety in today's culture. And, from the time that I first got started in the auto industry, so it was 2009, it was right off of, several OEMs being in bankruptcy. There were inventory challenges then, of course, a little different scenario than what we're dealing with today. But one thing that I remember in 2009 was there was a lot more present where customers just had the sense that you were ultimately there to help them. They didn't really feel as insecure about what you were saying, or they wouldn't necessarily question if it was valid. Today, I think there's just such a heightened anxiety where people really want to know and confide in people that they feel they trust. And so they might hear initial information from an announcement or some kind of bulletin, or they might see something in the news. But what I've found more is that customers really do want to pick up the phone and have that conversation, or see somebody in person and ask those questions with somebody that they trust. I think that has been the biggest difference that I see between the last decade and how our customers have really adapted to some of the situations that have gone on today.
Thanks for that. Tim, what do you think?
Oh, I'd say it's something that I've heard a couple of folks already say. It's the anxiety. I mean, just look at the past 3 or 4 years. You look at the past decade, really, but really look at the past 3 or 4 years. We have the obvious problem with supply chain and inventory that's being met with the fact that folks have had their behavior totally maligned, warped, and reshaped over the last 3 years because of a pandemic. And right now, because of a lingering pandemic, and what's going on with fuel prices, right? So I think people are looking for answers. They're looking for that person that they can trust. And car dealers, for the most part, are limited to transactional training, transactional ways of operating. And that's not what customers are looking for right now. They're looking for someone that they can trust and they can find the honest to God's truth about what's going on in the marketplace and what they need to do.
Valid points there. Dylan, what do you think?
I would tend to agree with Tim's view that we have spent so much time teaching car people how to relate to customers in a transactional way that we have not spent time with them to look beyond that and see that they are people with real needs. Going back to the young lady that was speaking earlier in the video that you had, that you have to become more acute at listening to what the person has to say that's sitting across from you, or when you first view them through the showroom window when they drive up to see what their needs may be. You evaluate the car they drive up in, how many children pile out of the car, what kind of clothing they're wearing, if they have ball mitts with them or lacrosse equipment or whatever it might be. You have to pick up on all those cues and see if you can speak to those things so they can have something that you can speak to them about that's not just about the cars or what their economic needs might be. That's what I think we need to do more of.
Thanks for that. Jeff?
Well, it's a very good point you made there, and of course we don't run the video that we do openly before on the show, just because we get in big trouble. But you made a good point there, Don, that the lady mentioned about listening, and the thing that I got a good laugh out of is she's talking about listening and talking to people. And as you're listening to somebody, you suddenly think about that time that you met Hugh Jackman and you want to tell your customer about Hugh Jackman. And Ian and I are dealing with this all the time. We're going, oh, here's what we want to put in. But as we always say, the show's about our guests. So our show's been around for about 3 years, and we're pretty proud of that. But we keep hearing stories about how things are going and how dealers are. And you see posts and everybody saying, well, we're a customer-centric operation and etc. And then you see somebody posts on LinkedIn or something, I just got $100,000 over MSRP for my Lightning. Woo! And so we keep hearing how they changed and how things are better for customers and everything else. And then some of them are just sitting there going like this. I got something somebody wants. So what's your opinion about this two totally different viewpoints of things? And what do you predict is going to happen in the case of with customers once the pipeline opens up? And I'm actually going to go back to Dawn on this one.
I'm not sure the pipeline is going to open up anytime soon, but coincidentally, I was up in New Jersey last week visiting independent dealers, and one dealer was taking 60 cars to the auction, and it was out of MMR by an average of 5,000. In other words, he was $5,000 above what he should be in those cars on wholesale times 60. Wow. He sold 15 of those cars that day. Wow. Needless to say, still scrambling the rest of the week to find homes for the rest of those cars. And talking to him later that the next day, his competitors are in a similar situation. So throughout our industry, whether it's new car dealers or used car dealers, they're faced with either not enough inventory or too much inventory, and they need to, how would you say, measure it out, like they have a measuring cup. They have to find ways and means to liquidate the overstock that they have and put that into new stock so they can certify the customers they have now before they're going to satisfy the customers they're going to have in the future. They're not going to be in business. It's also listening to a podcast by, and I'm trying to remember his name, who runs he works for Cars.com now. He has the largest used car company, and he was talking about dealers riveting their cars into the lot because they own them for so much over what they should own them for now. Oh, Holland's Head, is his name, and that's be very aware of where you are in your inventory. You're not going to be serving anybody. And I was going to visit this dealer talking to him about fixing his issues in his BDC, where he wound up talking about a total marketing project. I'm talking to him about a 4-week or 4-month examination of what's going on. He uses VIN solutions. He has 14 employees. He's well organized. And we wound up talking about probably $100,000 project with redoing his marketing using AI. Much more sophisticated operation than I was initially prepared to talk to him about, with the proofs and clients talk to him about what we've been able to do over the last 4 or 5 years in in his marketplace. Fortunately, I have a large dealer in his area called Cherry Hill Motors that has Mercedes and Rover and other dealers of that level, and he's a highline guy, so he's going to measure he'll be able to relate what I've done with that dealer over the last 5 years to what he's trying to achieve. It'll be on a smaller scale, of course, but he'll see the vision and what we're able to do. So it's interesting what you have to be able to pivot when you go to see someone. And all these clients or people that you may be speaking to in the next few months are having these things in the back of the mind. It was really an awakening experience. I went up there for a day and a half, saw 3 people. They all had different needs than what I was expecting to talk to them about and was prepared to talk to them about.
Perfect. Good. Very good point. It's interesting.
I don't mean to take up so much time there, but
That's okay.
That's okay. You're going to take it away later. I've got an imaginary stopwatch here. No, that's what we're here for. But it's interesting you brought up this division. We're here to talk about customers, all customers. We got difficult on the backdrop, etc. But we asked about the division, and here's the division. And Sarah, I'll ask you this. So our division is somebody says, "Wow, I happen to have inventory now." I'm not sure how many. There are dealers that have them. They usually seem to be still my experience, but they're going, you can get $1 bazillion at the auction and move all these cars now because, gee, what's going to happen if they're high? Or do we take care of the customer? And so, Sarah, I'm going to hit you with that derivation from the question.
Oh, well, I'm happy to answer this one. So here's my take on this, really. And this is something that as a dealership, you really need to keep this in mind because you got to play the long game, right? If you intend to be in business for your customers, then you can't wade between 2 worlds. And the reality is right now, there's a lot of dealerships that know, okay, we really need to focus on customer experience. We want to talk to our customer about how much we value them. And yet they still push these paid plans. They still push this very transactional, standoffish approach. And what winds up happening is you have a customer that's getting 2 different messages. They're getting this marketing message that's, we're very focused about you. We're very focused about our community. We're very focused about these things. And in actuality, when the customer does engage with your business, they're receiving a different experience. I think it's no secret that customers embrace a transactional model when it's upfront that it's a transactional model. We don't have any problem going to Amazon and buying something with our cart. We don't have any problem doing things when we understand the terms and what we're getting into. But when you're walking that balance between not having processes, not having training that go with what your company culture is, that's where you start to see those divisions between customers. And also that's going to create friction between the dealership and the OEM because you're delivering 2 very different experiences to your consumer. And so for me, I think the biggest challenge right now that we have to take inventory of is we as dealers have to define what our organization is going to do and adopt that model. Are we looking for this customer to service their car with us consistently? Do we want to service all the cars in their family? And if so, then we need to evaluate how we structure the sales transaction and how we pay our people on the front side and on the back. That's really my take on it. I think we just have to have these really tough conversations and meet the expectations where they are.
Well, thank you very much. That's a terrific point, because it's what is that book, The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea or something like that? We have to deal with that. Tim, what's your opinion?
I mean, my opinion is that things are changing fast now and they're only going to change faster. So to Sarah's point, I mean, if you're not building empathy right at first touch with a customer, if you're not laying it all out on how it's going to work and what they should expect, then you're behind in the whole process. It's going to be a negative experience at the end, no matter what you do from that point on. It's what we were talking earlier about building trust and about having an honest conversation and being as transparent as possible about what's about to take place. And that goes as far as letting people know, hey, this is how I'm going to be compensated, and this is how the dealer is going to make money on this, right? I think that's extremely important, especially as we move into this new age of cars that are more dependable, that, this is when the pipeline opens up. And of course, EVs. You can't ignore them anymore. I think that's the thing that's driving so much of the markup over MSRP right now. The government is involved one way or another in terms of incentivizing us to go buy them, at least from an education and communication standpoint. They're trying to have us believe that's what we need to be doing. The dealer's in a fantastic place to be able to fortify trust and build a relationship with a customer. And the very first step on that is by being transparent and empathizing with that customer. Some of the stuff that Don was saying earlier, very, very Dale Carnegie-like things, right? What college sweatshirt are they wearing? And do they have a soccer ball in the car? That kind of thing. It goes way beyond that now. It goes way deeper than that. And again, from my point of view, if they bought from you before, you better know all these things before they even arrive on the lot, because you've got the data, and the data will tell you what their experience has been with you in the past. That helps you build empathy.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Our good friend Larry Feldman has raised his hand, which is really nice because normally he just starts talking. But hello, Larry, you had a comment to make.
I can't be offended because I am a car salesperson, so there's nothing that offends me. I got to say, I agree with what everyone said, but I find it amusing that everybody's talking about how important it is to be transparent now. It was always important to be transparent because salespeople that screwed their customers or didn't answer their phone when they had a problem never got any follow-up or repeat business. And that's always been and will always continue to be the key to success in any business, but particularly ours. It's not the deal, it's the deal after the deal. And if you're not straight up with people, and if you're not looking them in the eye, and if you don't do what you say you're going to do and follow up, you're lost. And so everybody's right, but it's always been a principle that made sense to me.
Great thought there, Larry.
Can I make a comment on Tim and Don's statement about one thing that really too that you have to keep in mind is it goes beyond to what if you're I'm very aware of it, being a mom, being somebody that comes into a business, and I kind of get you're a mother and that's your identity and your role based on the information that I see of you. But one other thing that we have to keep in mind is we also have to see what is valuable to that person and build value based on what's important to them. It can't simply be based on what we visually or even what the words that they're saying. We have to go even further now to make sure that what we're proposing actually is valuable to that consumer.
Yeah, there was a video local dealer put online the other day. I think he was at a restaurant and he asked for an off-menu experience. And was provided that. And he says, when you're charging list or above list, you kind of have to deliver on the fact that you're making all the money. You kind of got to deliver that experience before and after the sale. And if you're not doing that, you kind of got to rethink that, because the fact that you're making all the money is great, but what are you doing to make that experience special for the customer or unique for the customer? And I thought that was a really good point. But we've all had online quotes, online presentations, touch-free ability. I know the manufacturers are all talking about digital retail and that kind of thing. We've had a guest on talking about online penny perfect payments. What do you think the future of digital automotive is? Do you really think that customers are going to move from that 10% goalpost now to 100% over the next little bit? What do you think? Let's start with Sarah.
Look, it's all going to come down to what options are available for the customer to engage and what specifically the need is. So I don't think it's ever going to go to a completely digital experience, because let's be real. How many times have y'all ever had, anybody that's ordered anything online and has had a problem with their order knows it's next to impossible to try to get something resolved if it's completely digital. And we all get very frustrated with that. That's what's going on with the airlines right now, where these consumers are going, I need help. I need somebody to fix this. This was all created by computer systems and algorithms and things to, logistics. But at the end of the day, I'm still a human being that's stuck in an airport, and I still got to get to my destination somehow. And so in those moments, we want that human touch. We want somebody to be able to think faster than a machine, look at all the information and make that decision that works for that consumer. And so I never think it's going to be a completely digital experience, but something like going on DoorDash and ordering a hamburger, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still see that there's points in our culture and points in our interaction where we want that touch free, where we want to just be able to go on our phone, complete an order and do it. But at the end of the day, we still have to rely on human beings to deliver those services, to be the one to check behind the computer to make sure that everything went off without a hitch. And then if something does go wrong, a human being has to be the one to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, I had an interesting experience last week with LinkedIn where they've got some new algorithm and you can't actually talk to a person. So they've got chat, which isn't that useful, and eventually got it fixed. But then I sent, messages to their entire senior management team. And I said, you guys probably should fix this at scale before it becomes an epic problem for you. Because you can't actually talk to a physical person, which I thought was hilarious. But I think, Chris, you had a comment or a thought or a question? You're muted. Oh, there you go.
No, I was clapping for Sarah. She's on point. Look, I don't know that we have difficult customers. I think we have information overload for customers. I think the customers have a heightened awareness of what's going on, and they are looking for somebody to trust. What I think is happening is the sales teams are skipping steps because we're all living in a virtual world. I think salespeople just expect customers to know. They think it's just going to be a layup, and I don't think that's proper. I think they're creating shortcuts. I love what you said again, Sarah, too, around, the skin in the game pay plan, tying it in. Absolutely. And setting those expectations with customers is absolutely key on the front side. If you can set the expectations, the customers will go along. Customer knows one thing, and it's exactly what we tell them. That's the truth. They don't do it every day. We do. That is 100% something they have to think about. And if you can place yourself into a customer's position, then you got them. And also, what are you looking for from the customer? Are you looking to just sell them a vehicle and goodbye? Or are you looking to service and, the whole fleet, the whole family forever? You have to make that choice as an operation. You have to be deliberate to do that. So I'll yield back.
Thanks very much. Tim?
Well, I think everybody's on point. I mean, it's a mess out there right now. It's a mess, and it's what I said earlier, right? Things are changing very, very fast. There is information overload. There is anxiety. There's all these things. And, the promise of technology, if the question was, what does this digital customer look like going forward? The promise of technology has always been that it would make things easier, right? It would take mundane processes and automate them. It would take something with 5 steps and turn it into 2 steps. That is the possibility, and it is the order of the day for everybody right now as they try to digitize business. But to Sarah's point, it is the human touch that has to be there. It is that access to a human that has to be there. 2 different things, right? It has to be a customer experience, albeit digital customer experience, that is empathetic and frictionless for the customer. They find the information that they need. They get the answers to the questions that they have every single time, or as best as possible. And then they've got a button they can push to find someone who's very knowledgeable about them and the thing they're looking for. That's how every major retailer is orchestrating things right now. And car dealers have to do the same thing. It all comes down to having that understanding of the customer and being able to make sure that your team is trained up and armed with the same kind of information we're talking about giving to customers.
Yeah, I mean, it's we had a guest on, I guess over a year ago, Marco. He happened at the time, he was working at an Audi store, but he was selling 40 cars a month using his cell phone. I mean, obviously his data bill was heavy, but he was basically carrying the ball from start to finish remotely. And the reason he is that's what the customer wanted. So I don't know if that's going to be the way it goes forward, but realistically, he's going to differentiate himself from everybody else. I think he's now working for Mercedes, but at the end of the day, it's about experience front to back. And what was funny about my experience was even the people on the other side who I was chatting with were like, well, we can't help you. It's like, well, you're the only option, man. It's just kind of funny. Dawn, what do you think?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Sarah, please.
Well, and Ian, to your point, technology really just facilitates options. That's what it should be utilized as. However you want to engage, give people avenues of choice, and that's going to be a better customer experience overall.
Oh, 100%. I mean, finding a phone number on a website today is like it's like a scavenger hunt. Go ahead, Don.
Well, let's go to when I just completed just did my mystery shops, 35 mystery shops that I published. And we found just what Tim was talking about, there are holes in the process. 66% of the agents didn't even give the customer a choice on when they would come in for an appointment. So, but this leads me, or led me to believe, and when I talk to dealers, it's true. The dealers don't know what's going on in showrooms because the managers aren't telling them that the processes are broken because the profits are so high and everybody's making a payment. So why would you tell your boss that things aren't as good as they think they are? So now that the dice are tumbling, the dealers are seeing that there are holes in the process. So consultants like us are going to have a little bit better opportunity to get some time with the dealer and be able to put the processes back together the way they should be operating for the customer, that the customer gets the experience they deserve from start to finish. 100%.
Jeff?
Well, it's a very interesting comment we're all making here is that we all talk, it's about the customer. And we're talking about the long game and everything else. I love the football analogies. And, but it's interesting because, as Dawn said, well, let's run these things to auction. As I opened before we went live about the person celebrating their $100,000 markup on a Lightning pickup, and then realizing that in 3 years, when that Lightning is now going to go for a discount with rebates, what's that person going to do when the new Lightning's faster, nicer, tows things? That's been a comment, by the way. But anyways, moving along, speaking about posts, yesterday I saw one a post online on LinkedIn about dealers taking advantage of lack of supply by extreme markups. And then there was all the comments, and everybody loves to comment about things. And one person defended this because everybody else said you shouldn't do that because let's take care of the customer, and which is the general theme. But somebody said, hey, for years they've gone to these websites, carscost.com, how to beat the dealer, the book, beat them up. This is just payback. And I think I know what we're going to say here, but is there some validity in saying, they got me and they've got me for 20 years. Now I can get them. Is there validity or literally, I know my opinion, but I'm the host, so I don't get to share it. And I'm actually got Tim staring right at me right now in the limelight, so I'll ask you that, Tim.
Well, it goes back to something I think Chris said earlier, right? Are you looking just to get the commission on the deal on the one piece of metal moved, or are you going to dig deeper and are you going to go the long game in terms of building a relationship with that family to outfit everyone in the family with a new car every 3 years or whatever it might be, right? And better yet, are we going to get the service on those vehicles, right? Are we going to get the fixed ops revenue? We've talked about that on past shows. Maybe do we have a correlation between the sales floor and what happens in parts and service, right? Because if you do that, then everyone understands what that total lifetime value of the customer is and what the opportunity is in moving the vehicle in the first place. So I just think at the end of the day, what you're seeing, the post you started off with, the post you first shared with us there, that's a shame because that gets us right back to that transactional view. People are just looking to get rich quick, and they're not understanding that, especially on that F-150 Lightning, it doesn't have oil to change. It doesn't have belts that are going to go out or spark plugs that are going to go out, right? At best, you're going to get a new tire job out of it. At best, you're going to get a brake job out of it. It's looking right now, and maybe that was in their thoughts, right? Maybe they saw that the fixed ops revenue wouldn't be there 6 years, 4 years, 3 years down the road like it has with other F-150s. But my point being is looking at the long game and looking at the holistic opportunity in that customer relationship. What can it do for the dealer? What can it do for you? and probably some rearranging of where people sit in the dealership in terms of how revenue is shared or how compensation is modeled with that total lifetime value of a customer.
Well, it's a very good point you made, because I was actually going to comment on that F-150 is not coming back for a while. And
Nope.
then again, they're getting used to it. I'm going to get in trouble with my Ford friends here, but they're getting used to those F-150s coming back for warranty work. So, the Lightning, they probably won't. But Sarah, I'm going to go to you. You have a fixed ops background, and so what do you think of this when you've now got these electric vehicles? So somebody sits there and says, it won't be a Lightning. I actually saw the most money paid over MSRP was for a Hummer like 2 weeks ago. It was $175,000 over MSRP for a $100,000 truck. But what do you think about that? I mean, there's got to be a school of thought that says, I'm not seeing this person for $2,000 a year in maintenance or warranty. If they keep it 10 years, maybe they'll get batteries somewhere. But can this be legitimately argued?
I mean, profit in any business is an expectation. You got to keep the lights on, right? However, really, you have to also take into perspective the perception of what's going to happen down the line. And let's be real, all these electric cars do have tires, they have brakes, they have other wearable parts that we can really focus on building that relationship with. You have to have that expectation. And again, it boils down to really building value and building the communication channel for the customer. You can set the stage with everything that happens in the purchase process for what's going to happen in the fixed ops side. If you have a very siloed sales and service department where sales is just selling these cars over sticker and the sales department's getting super pumped up about how much gross they made on the front end, but you are completely neglecting discussing anything about your fixed ops department, you don't have any insight or any conversations with your customers about the fixed ops expectations for these vehicles, at some point that customer is going to have to buy tires. That's just a reality. And especially on the Lightning and a Hummer, I mean, some of these tires and lifts that they're putting on these vehicles, yeah, you're going to need tires sooner rather than later. Let's be real. So you need to have that mentality in your business in how the customer is going to perceive that down the line. And I think there's a missed opportunity if somebody is looking at this purely from the variable ops side and just looking to make hand over fist on that initial transaction. Look, I mean, maybe they're selling these vehicles to somebody that's not in their market, that doesn't have any type of, loyalty or retention element to it. And maybe that drives some of that conversation. But again, maybe that's something that as a business you need to evaluate. Do we really want to sell that car to somebody that's not in our market, that's not local? What are those strategies and conversations? You really have to bring all the departments together to really define what your business needs to be.
Well, I am working on a startup right now for the service parts of electric vehicles, which is brushflush.com. And sorry, I had to get that out. Larry's not making jokes today, so I figured I had to add one. Don, what do you think about this?
I don't know, you just maybe lose my thought there.
Devil that's there.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Well, we got a way off here. Somebody gets a commodity and they have a Lightning or whatever it may be, and the order cancels for whatever reason. And now they got an opportunity to get $1 gazillion for this vehicle, this super unicorn. And do they take it and celebrate it, or do they look at the long game and say, is this the right thing to do? What's my reputation? What's my business future?
Well, what happens is how these people try to get these cars financed, and they want to put $20,000 down, and they have a $200,000 note. That's the first problem.
It's probably not ending up in your market. I think it's going on a boat somewhere with somebody that's not financing.
Well, that's probably what's happening. Or the same thing with these G63, the Mercedes dealers. For a while they're selling 50, 60,000 over. They're all shipping. I'm talking to the people, my used car guys. They have lots of shipping cars. High-end I had Lexus with 80, 90,000 miles on them, or BMW 7 Series SUVs. They all are going overseas.
Right.
Especially if they're black on black. It's like when I was in retail, it's the same thing occurring. Or if they were diesel back in the day, they're being shipped.
We have a lot of
Market
shipping
someplace
issues up
for
here
them.
in Canada too, except they're going to you guys.
What's that doing to the marketplace? You're not growing your own market. I was visiting a client in New Jersey that they have four franchises. They do not sell their cars in their local market, say with 20 or 25 mile radius over a list price, but they do sell the cars if the customer is 25 or 50 miles away, they will sell them at $4,000 or $5,000 over because they want to sell those cars that far away because they want to keep the customers close. They want to keep customers coming back for service.
Yeah, fair enough. So obviously there's lots of talk about OEMs and agency models and all that stuff, both from Ford and others. Do you think that's good for customers? Let's start
I
with...
definitely don't think that's good for customers. That people all over the place that are really upset about that. The Volkswagen model right now is they ask the customer where they want to purchase the car. They push the car to that dealer. That seems to be working okay. The Ford model, I'm not quite so sure how that's worked.
Yeah, I think Ford, it was interesting because they shot a volley basically from the CEO down saying, this is what we're going to do. And then there's a lot of noise online and elsewhere, I'm sure from the phones as well. But their argument, based on my take on it, was that they wanted to just do that for electric. But, I'm not sure what the other manufacturer's doing other than witnessing to see what's going to happen and go from there. But what do you think, Tim?
Well, I mean, again, I think we're going to see all kinds of different ways that OEMs and dealers dance with each other on how they get new product to market and how they get it in the right hands of the right people at a fair price. I think the thing that happens when someone doesn't pick up their Lightning or just says, "Hey, keep my deposit," and I'm not going to buy it, and then they turn around and they sell it to somebody else for $150,000 over, $100,000 over. I actually don't think that's wrong that they're doing that. What's wrong is that they're going to LinkedIn or Instagram or anywhere else and they're saying, "Look what I just did." I think that's where that's wrong. I mean, if the demand is there, I think dealers have an opportunity to capitalize. I still think what I said before and what others have said, it's about building a relationship and understanding what the long game is with that customer, his or her family, their neighbors, their coworkers, the relationship that comes with them, and you run the risk if the OEM is there before you, or you run the risk if you've tarnished that at the get-go by charging twice the value of the vehicle.
Hey, Tim, just how about if we flip that perspective on its head? How about the geniuses at the OEMs? Their latest thing is let's charge for options. And then if you buy the car after the lease has run out or the original purchase, you may have the option, but you may have to pay for it. So it's not like the OEM has always had the dealer's interest in part. My rep had one simple answer to everything: take more cars. I can't sell the cars I have. Just take more. It'll be just fine. So it's not like they're always of the best mind as to what people want. And they're certainly not any more connected than we are because we're the ones in the trenches doing business, whether you're a vendor or a dealer.
Right.
It's all perspective. I got into the business. Hold on. I got into the business and it was really funny. I'm not that old, but I'm just old enough to remember older guys coming in and saying, I would never buy a Japanese car. Either they had been in World War II or their father. Never. It ain't never happening. Things happen. And as far as this thing with the perspective of, well, they're going to be way upside down, I made my career in Trent, New Jersey. Everybody had bad credit. You couldn't enter the city limits unless your credit was bad. Okay? So we had tons of people come in that were zillions of dollars upside down. This too shall pass. It's all supply and demand. right?
Right.
I talk about in my classes the Honus Wagner baseball card, which just sold for $5 or $6 million. They think the Mantle rookie card is going to trump that. That's insane. I'm a musician. Springsteen now wants to charge $5,000 for floor seats. And if you go see the Stones, you can pay $20,000 to see Keith Richards, who hasn't written a great song since Exile on Main Street. It's supply and demand. This isn't complicated. So what happens when I let Jeff and Ian start without me? It gets way off track.
Yeah.
Well, the question is how many Echo Sports does the dealer have to buy to get a Lightning?
Yeah.
About 2,000, and they've got them, unfortunately.
Sarah, what do you think?
Well, the direct-to-consumer model, I think there's some cautionary tales out there, right? I mean, we've seen that some of these direct-to-consumer sales entities in the used car side have gotten their sales licenses completely revoked in certain states because of what happens after the transaction. And really, at the end of the day, the OEM has always expected the dealer to be the one to own consumer problems. If there's a problem with warranty, it has to start with the dealership doing the diagnostics, submitting their findings to the OEM, and then escalating from there. Same thing on the sales side. If there's a problem with the transaction, if there's an issue with financing, that has always typically fallen on the dealership to be the one to intervene on behalf of the customer and sort it all out. And what we've seen time and time again with some of these direct-to-consumer models in the used car side is that once that transaction happens, there isn't a lot of accountability in those business models that really help the consumer navigate the challenges that can come up. And so one of the things that I think we really have to weigh, and as dealer bodies and businesses that work directly with dealerships, we have to continue to advocate that to the OEM. We know for a fact that there's been instances in history for how these OEMs have operated where they don't take ownership of the consumer situation. If something comes up, it always falls back on the dealership. And so the discussion that we really need to have is, dealerships are that representative to their communities. They are the face of Toyota. They are the face of Ford. They are the face of Honda. That's how consumers recognize those brands, is by the dealership and their relation to how they treat their local communities. Without that present, it doesn't really mean anything to a consumer if they have no means to be able to fix issues that come up.
Sarah, how about if they order the wrong car? How about if something comes in with an option they don't like? I think everybody in this program will agree that a lot of customers come in and they are incredibly confused. They've been to so many dealerships or looked up so many things that they're swearing a package is available that isn't, or they have the Nissan B package confused with the Toyota B package. So again, pushing us out as the middleman, it may seem like a great idea if you're smoking weed in a boardroom, but in practical application, our role is to buy these cars from them, sell them to customers, service the customers, and keep the thing rolling. I mean, you talk about being short-sighted with overcharging for a car. For the OEMs that think, we don't need the dealers. That's crazy short-sighted.
And since it's the time, Jeff, any final thoughts?
Well, I think there's some great discussion here, and as always, the direction of the show goes to all sorts of neat points. I thank everybody for being here. We very much enjoy having you, and the viewpoints are tremendous, and it's nice to hear all these things. And we've got some great concerns here, because I really do believe strongly that the next 2 years we're going to have a judgment day in the car industry, and all of a sudden, where Dawn doesn't agree with me that we'll be out of this thing in 2 years. I got a terrible feeling. And again, my other investment is the new chip plant in Colorado. And I am taking investors right now, and we're going to be up and running in about 3 months, producing chips everywhere. It's only $300,000. I'll send a link. No, just kidding. But
I want 2 shares.
This could actually come out. That's 2 shares.
Yeah.
Interesting. I really do believe something's going to break here very soon. And I don't mean in a month or two, but all of a sudden that judgment day.
Oh, I think we're going to be moving out of it. I don't think we're going to be totally out of it.
Oh, no. We're going to self-create to stay into it. But I'm just saying the dealers, we're always at the end of the stick. We're always the one that get the heat. we're always the one that suffer everything that everybody else does. And we just do have to be careful we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. But nevertheless, that's my 2 seconds of saying things. Thank you all. I appreciate you being here. I'm going to leave it to Ian to close the show and to have a great week.
Thanks very much.
Great show.
Thank you.
And remember, it's all about customers. Without customers, there is no business. Have a great day.